Make no attempt to reload your device. You are now entering the Hellhole.
We're live, pal! How's that music looking? That long-ass intro, I'm settling in, I'm doing all the last-minute checks, there's always something that gets forgotten still. Welcome back to the Hellhole, I'm internet sensation Mick Lucifer. I'm nursing like a bit of a sore throat thing, so we'll see how we go. I don't know, we might cut this thing short, but I've been threatening... Oh my god. I've been threatening comics for a long time in the Hellhole, so it's about damn time we give this a shot. It's a totally new rig for me. You can see we're face down, bird's eye view on my desk. You can see my weird, freakish little hands. I'm kind of, the X-Mania is continuing. It's kind of been X-Mania lately in the Hellhole. We've been doing trading cards and things like that. A little bit of Marvel Snap, some Marvel Snap challenges. It's kind of X-Mania is in the air right now with X-Men 97 on Disney+, the animated series revival, which is really cool. And a lot of hype for Deadpool and Wolverine, sort of fueling classic X-Men, or at least like 90s X-Men. With the yellow costumes and everything, which to me is so overdue. It's so exciting. The sedate black leather of the 2000 film and some of the sequels, the Bryan Singer film, you know, deservedly being poked fun at now. Boy, long time coming in my eyes. You know me, internet sensation Mick Lucifer, here in the Hellhole. I'm a storied comic book fan. I've been threatening this for so long. There's a comic book playlist, but it had nothing actually comics in it. It's about time we fix that. Hopefully this will be the first of many. I don't know, I haven't done this before. I don't know, I gotta have things to think of. But, so I guess going around Twitter, certainly amongst comics fans, there was a little bit of a thing of, like, you know, sharing your first X-Men comic, and I'm pretty sure this is mine. Now, I will throw in the curveball. This might be the first X-related comic I had. The Magneto taking on the Cosmic Spider-Man during Acts of Vengeance, which was a very exciting time. It was probably just before my first X-Men comic. So it's funny too, because like I got that when I was a little kid, and I always felt like I came to X-Men late. I was embarrassed by, like, I didn't get an X-Men comic until 1990. You know, the times have changed, man. That's a long time ago now. What do I do with this? We're live, pal. So this is X-Men Annual number 14. Which is actually an issue you might know, even if you're not into comics. So, like, if you're not into comics and you're sticking around, you maybe just like hanging out. I don't know. Cool. But you might actually know this comic because it's sort of gained a steam for being the first appearance of Gambit, even though for many, many, many years it was not credited as the first appearance of Gambit. But it kind of, I think it technically is in terms of when the issue came out, but I think it was discounted partly because it's an annual, and they sort of, I mean, annuals don't even print the month in the issue itself. They don't tell you, you know, they don't give you a cover date month usually. So they're sort of, they're always treated as this other thing, and for whatever reason, I guess it probably came out maybe the same month as Gambit's first appearance, I guess, in Uncanny X-Men 1990. I always think that's surprising. If you're aware of the website Secret Wars on Infinite Earths, the comic book fight club, you know there's a Gambit entry up there right now, part of the Gambit solo series with Blade. But I was looking at Gambit and just remarking on, like, it's easy to forget that he's a character from 1990. He is a 90s character. Obviously, Gambit, very emblematic of the 90s. You think of the animated series Gambit, very much a 90s character in that sense, but, you wouldn't necessarily think he was that new. At least I wouldn't. I find that easy to forget. So he's in here, whole lot of stuff. So I guess I was like, I come to this issue out of curiosity. I'm thinking I got it from the newsstands. I think there was a comic store in town, but it wasn't the main one that I would sort of frequent in a few years later. So I guess I got this off the newsstands. I'm thinking it was probably off the newsagent that I would go to around that time. Probably, I'm pretty sure I got that issue of Spider-Man from there. Probably got this there too. I don't know. As a kid, a very young kid too. Like I was a very young kid around this time. You're grabbing issues where you can. Your parents they're only going to indulge you so far. They're only going to buy you so much. So this, train station, if I can blag one there, maybe. I remember getting a couple of Batmans from the train station, which was really cool because it was like a hole in the wall. Like it was sort of almost old-fashioned in that sense. Even the train station itself was a little bit old-fashioned. It was old-fashioned in my mind because, Batman 89, Dick Tracy and all that stuff, a retro mentality is already there at a young age sort of thing. So I don't know, but this, this is a cool issue. I'm excited to get into it. I haven't looked at it in a while, but you can see it's pretty well worn. It's traveled many places with me since. I don't know how the camera frame rate's doing. I'm using an extension cord, a USB extension cord. So that's part of the complications of this setup. Hopefully we'll get through it, but dig this cover, like straight away. So this issue is predominantly Arthur Adams, who always feels quite special to me. I'm just trying to... this is great. Are there credits on this page? I can see the editor credits and all that. Where's the writer-artist credits? Maybe they're in the issue itself. I never do any research when I come in here. You're getting what I know and what I don't know. So yeah, it's Chris Claremont and it's Arthur Adams. I just wanted to be sure. This cover, like... to me as a little kid, there is that sense of, they talk about like selling the Justice League comic. You got all the heroes in one book. There is a sense of value to a young kid when you see a cover like this. All these characters, all this excitement. You got Kirby dots going wild. I love the little halo effect on. So we got Rachel Summers, the Phoenix. We got Franklin Richards from the future. They're both from the future, really. There's the Franklin Richards that we would know from the Fantastic Four comics now. Or Power Pack. He's wearing the Power Pack getup. Here he is in the future, wearing his jumpsuit, sort of Days of Future Past, or somewhere around that. Rachel Summers, same deal. She's got a red Hounds look, and this to me is like, maybe because of this comic, this is the look I like for Rachel Summers with the red sort of catsuit. We got the X Factor look for Jean Grey. Cyclops is here. I particularly love, like, I'm trying to use the camera to guide my hands here. I like the chunky visor in this. I like to see Cyclops with a big chunky gold visor. Maybe we'll see that as the issue goes. But you can see there's Miss Fantastic stretching in from the top. You got She-Thing down here above. A young Storm. I think she's lost her powers around this point. You would have been seeing that in the animated series. Here's Cable too. Cable's still a relatively new character around this time. So a lot of stuff going on, and big villain central is Ahab. He's sort of like a sentinel guy from the future who's come to cause trouble. So this is really cool. I like the pretty tasteful credits page. Would always say this Wrath of the Black Mana ad and always be curious about that game. Never played it, so how about that? I don't know how the lighting is. We're just gonna look at this and reminisce, and hopefully my audio is okay. I'm moving the mic. I'm calling my shots as I go. This is interesting. As a kid, maybe a little bit basic, a little too domestic. I'm looking for big superhero action. You got me like overhead shots of a burger and fries, but check out the artistry, really. I mean, Arthur Adams, one of the greats, did what series of X, or was it Marvel Universe Series 2 cards? Was that Arthur Adams? You got an ad for the X-Men video game. I think this is the notorious LJN one, the one that's terrible. I was protected from that not having an NES, so I never really had to deal with those garbage games, which would have been incredibly disappointing to me, particularly as a comic book reader and a fan. I guess, you know, I'm getting some of the Master System games. If you head to the archive, I'm playing Spider-Man in one of them. Batman Returns, Sega Master System games. Really good. So here we got, like, things are going down at the burger joint, and you might recognize the bad guy that's coming in here. Gun-toting bad guys. These are, like, ripped straight out of RoboCop. Which I guess you could get away with back then, but I don't know. I feel like, you know, people are going to spot Clarence Boddicker and his cats. This is the cackling guy. He likes it. I don't know. So this is cool. Guns get crushed. I don't know. That's cool. I really like some of the effects here with, like, they're very simple, hand-drawn effects. Little like sparkly elements. Really cool. I like the drama of, like, Rachel Summers taking off. She's the Phoenix. I guess I should have mentioned that. She got the powers of the Phoenix, so she takes off out of the burger joint, flying away in fire. Really cool stuff. It's a little bit of, like, it's a little too domestic. Here's where things start to get a little bit more exciting for me as a kid. You know, reading in 1990. Doctor Strange appearance. You know, that's gonna get me excited. You got a Morlock. I don't know who these people are. Whatever. They're feeling the psychic disturbance of the Phoenix. Check out the big, like, it's not just drama, it's melodrama. You know, it's not quite cosmic, we're not quite there, but we're in the clouds with Phoenix, with Franklin Richards, who's come from the future. There's something about the use of yellow too, so we gotta acknowledge the colors. The colors are a bit muted. My copy's pretty beat up, you know, over however many years it's been, 30 odd years, you know. But the use of yellow was really kind of exciting to me as a kid. It's a very pale yellow, and you can see even, like, with the lettering boxes, you know, the light probably doesn't catch it brilliantly on the camera, but the shades of yellow are actually distinct. So that's kind of cool. Big action, and I guess so. I'm trying to remember because this is the Days of Future Present annual story. There's 4 issues. I think there's an X Factor and a New Mutants that I don't have, but I had this and I had the Fantastic Four issue, and I was a Fantastic Four fan, so that's probably part of what drew me to this, seeing that the Fantastic Four were there and all these other characters, and I was intrigued. There was a comic store. I don't know if it would have been there in 1990. It was. I think I've mentioned it before. It's like an underground. You literally go underground, and you have to walk through this long stretch of tunnel that was carpeted, which I always just found a little bit strange. There was like a underground, like, tavern or something, or like casino thing. I don't know if it was a little bit of a gentleman's club because it was all curtained off. It was weird, and it felt a little bit seedy, particularly to me as, like, a little kid. And this is my frame of reference. I'm imagining there are gangs afoot everywhere. There is going to be, like, splatterpunks. That's my mindset as a kid. You go down this long stretch of it, and they've got, like, eventually you start seeing, like, superheroes painted on the glass, because it's sort of like a glass. It's a glass tunnel, but the glass isn't transparent. You know, it's covered, or it's, I don't know if it was a solid wall on one side and the glass of the tavern sort of thing. There was a lot of glass along there, but you couldn't see through it. And they've got, like, they got the brown costume Wolverine painted on the wall, and you know, hey, we're nearly at the comic shop. So I was curious about that, though, because, like, you know, I'm not even across Wolverine at this point. I'm aware of the characters. I'm aware of the X-Men. I'm kind of experiencing the X-Men the way they're depicted, like, in the cartoon. I didn't fear or loathe them, but they were other to me because I was reading Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, you know, whatever else. I was a big Phantom fan, but, you know, that doesn't really concern Marvel. I'm thinking of the Marvel Universe characters, and I'm learning that's part of the fun to me, getting into comics around this age. And it's the thing that I would really impress upon people who are worried about, like, where do I jump in? Is it new reader friendly? Stuff like that. The thrill is in the chase. The thrill is finding out. So take your first bite with the eye. Look at a cover. If you can flip through a comic or get an online preview, you know, get a sense that way what might interest you visually. and then enjoyed the discovery process, because that was a big thing for me as a kid. I'm just trying to accumulate as much knowledge as I can, pick up what I can about the Marvel Universe, reveal more of it to me. And this issue was great for that because there's so many characters in here. Didn't necessarily get like a great sense of everything about who all of them are, but it's introductions. It's the concept of networking, but in terms of revealing, a fictional universe to yourself. But so this is cool. Rachel Summers and Franklin are sort of having a little bit of a romance, and true to the comic book style, it's got to be big and operatic. So when they kiss, the sky is filled with flame, and the big like phoenix appears in the night sky. That's that sort of like operatic. They love large, they fight large, they hate large. Everything about it is bigger and more spectacular than life, and that's how it should be to me in these kinds of comics. Cool to see like the X-Men and Fantastic Four together. So like I said, I was a big Fantastic Four fan already. I don't quite know, like, it's tough for me to delineate like where cartoons and comics were in terms of me getting into this stuff. I mean, like, who cares when I did, but I guess it's something to talk about. And the premise of this is really just like people sharing their first X-Men comics. So indulge me if you will. But yeah, I was definitely like, I watched a lot of like I would get any kind of, there were videotapes around, so I would grab like any Marvel or superhero or DC, whatever videotapes. So I had Captain America, the 60s Captain America, and I rented like Submariner, Thor, obviously Spider-Man was a big one. There was an Iron Man one. Everybody knows that now because I think it, like in the movie, his ringtone is the theme from the 60s thing. And they were all, they're very crude. They're basically comics. They're almost motion comics, very limited animation. They've just chopped up the comics. It's Jack Kirby stuff. It's whoever. But yeah, so I was like getting into cartoons. Cartoons were a big thing really as a kid. But I was getting comics around that time, so I'm not quite sure. You often hear like people, maybe the X-Men animated series got them into the comics or something like that. And these days the films maybe a little bit of a gateway, not as much as they should be. But yeah, so cartoons were sort of like in concert with comics. So I don't know if I guess I probably had Fantastic Four comics before I had the cartoon. That's the long way to get to that. Love this Jean Grey. Let's let's try to focus on this stuff too. I love this Jean Grey. I love the X Factor costumes. But this issue for Jean Grey is like I don't think of it as the definitive Jean Grey, but it's a Jean Grey that I really like to think of. I like when we'll get to like the bubblegum pink telekinesis and stuff. Invisible Woman, looking a little bit different. She's got the shorter hair here, but Fantastic Four were kind of like one of my favorites. Thing, I mean, the only drawback around this time is his Thing was like one of my favorite characters, but he's Ben Grimm here. He's not the Rocky Thing. Unbelievable! All those decades where Reed Richards couldn't reverse the transformation, and now, well, he's not the Thing anymore. There's a She Thing. You gotta live with that. I was a little bit confused maybe as a kid, thinking like, why she got the McDonald's M on her costume? What's going on with the Thing? He doesn't look quite right. His dimensions are a little bit off. Well, it's because it's Sharon Ventura. She's become the She Thing. And I guess the M is because she was Ms. Marvel. She's like one of those like there's a superpowered pro wrestling federation in Marvel Comics, and I think she was one of those. I forget how the Power Broker was maybe involved and stuff like that. But so the M is, I guess, alluding to her persona as Ms. Marvel, and I think occasionally she was referred to as Ms. Marvel. I don't think she's called She Thing at any point in the comics. I forget. I think that's just a thing that a lot of fans came up with, and it made sense to me, but yeah, not the thing that I considered my favorite. And around this time, like, I guess, I mean, I don't know how I was exposed to like the Lee and Kirby comics, but some of that would have been in cartoons. I guess there were reprints of things around. There was what was it called? Like Marvel Super Action or whatever, and Marvel World's Greatest Comics, I think it was called, which would reprint Fantastic Four. So you could get a little bit of exposure that way. I was able to get some of those like in the dollar bins or the $2 bins back in those days. I would maybe not in 1990, but as I got a little bit older, obviously I'm looking for back issues. I'm reading backwards and forwards as much as I can. That isn't as encompassing as it might sound, you know, like I never had a subscription. We weren't buying a regular series or anything. I was just getting what I could where I could. Secondhand comics were a big part of that sort of experience for me. Secondhand bookstores would have, we had some really good ones. Some of them were like hidden away in the back alleys. You had to like go through like the, you know, like this parlor and then go down an alley and come into like a store that's askew on the corner. Again, a little bit old fashioned, but a very nice experience for me as a kid. And I'd get cheap comics. I'd get, you know, old reprints, and the comic book store, you know, was a big one. There was one which with the underground one was sort of a little bit like the guy was a bit of a grump. Not quite like the comic book guy cliche, just a little bit like probably didn't really want to be dealing with people. Something like that. Certainly didn't want to be dealing with a crazy little kid who's like wide-eyed looking around the store losing his mind. You know, I would always be looking, the store is underground, and then you go in the store, and there's like a step down inside the store as well. So you're like going deeper into the earth, looking at these things, and the further down there at the back, that would have like some of the maybe the R-rated stuff. I'd always be looking at like the Toxic Avenger posters on the wall and stuff like that, and it's like father's just trying to like keep my eyes where they should be and where they shouldn't be. I'm seeing things maybe I'm not quite ready for. I don't know. But yeah, that place was good. But then there was a store that I would go to like a couple of years later that was a bigger, brighter, more inviting place, and boxes, you know, the dream of like boxes and boxes of these cheap dollar comics and stuff. Great times. I'm losing myself. I'm getting distracted. You can see Cyclops here. You get a little bit of sense. Like I like this. The dimensions. I mean, I don't want to mess around too much. If I start bumping cables, we're going to lose the feed. Is it a little bit jittery every now and then? I don't know. I apologize for my hands as well. Yeah, I like the dimensions of Cyclops' visor here. He's a little bit elongated there. The head is very, very thin. His nickname is Slim. Scott Slim Summers, you know it. But yeah, I love this chunky visor with sort of like the big, you know, it's not quite the mole man, moloid look, but it's sort of, it's got that delineation of the two halves. If I was ever like, if you ever gave me the keys to the kingdom and I could do whatever I wanted with like X-Men comics, I would be interfering with the visuals, because to me that is making comics. The writer and the artist are not separated in my mind. It's a visual medium, and I feel like writers should be writing visual things and partly designing characters. I think of the Grant Morrison approach, New X-Men, fantastic. If I was doing that, if I had the keys to the kingdom to design X-Men, I would be doing everything I could to get Cyclops back in this X-Factor look. I don't necessarily need the white stripe on the cowl. I might get rid of that, which I think they did shortly after this, maybe even before this. I can't remember. I don't know though. I'm of two minds about it. I don't mind it, but yeah, where does it go? I don't know. It's a little bit weird. You got the X across the torso. That's really all you need, and down the arms and all that. But I'd be trying to get him into this costume, and maybe I'd be interested to see, like, maybe this is a little too bare. I'd be interested, what does it look like with the new X-Men jacket, maybe, or something like that, you know? Mix and match some of the periods of the styles, but get him in the big chunky gold visor. I hated the, I guess the 2010s, really, with, like, he had the thin, dark-colored visor, inspired by the movies, I guess. That's a drag, man. Get him in like a big, chunky gold visor. That's what I want to see. Not thin, forget it. Modified to look like convenient, like sunglasses, forget it. I want a chunky, big, makes no sense, bulging off of his face kind of visor. Give me that. Not the Phoenix one that's kind of like pointy. I want like big, bubbly, you know, that kind of thing. I want to own one. I want a Cyclops visor. That, as a kid, I would always dream of like, I want a Cyclops visor. And I don't think they made them back then. I think there probably is now. I don't know. This page, so you got this page, some great looking Arthur Adams characters. He does Fantastic Four really well. I like this Mr. Fantastic. This page, colors are a little flat. It's by design. You got night. You got into the, what is this? Some kind of like storm entrance, or is this the thing that connects with the Morlock tunnels? I forget. Cable's lurking around there like a creep, anticipating whatever problems, I guess. You got Storm, who I guess she's the teen Storm. She was youthed. She was turned into a child by the Orphan Maker. Man, I'm getting sketchy on my ex history, man. But you see, Gambit's with her. And I guess they've got like the thickest thieves, because they're both thieves in their previous lives. You got like a nice little skirmish here with Cable. That's pretty cool. Maybe we get that on Secret Wars and Infinite Earths, maybe, the comic book Fight Club. This is cool. I mean, I just, you're just jiving on, like, the ensemble cast at this point. All the characters. Cable's looking great. I like this Cable where he's a little bit older. Look, like, he reads a little bit older than he sometimes does later, but he's got the black still in the hair. It's sort of like, it's more of a skunk highlight with the white. I don't know, I like the big chunky. It's still very much more in the mold of the Liefeld Mystery Man. This is probably, I think, things alluded to in this issue I kind of forget. See, I should have read it before I came in. And look at all these freaks, the X-Men of the future. Who are these dudes? Franklin Richards and a bunch of weirdos. I think a couple of these characters we should know. But I'm not going to dwell on it too much. You can see Gambit's here. This is Gambit's first appearance. He snuck in with Storm. Okay, this is it. He doesn't really do a whole lot, so I guess that discounts it as a first appearance. Another good look at that chunky visor. I would urge anyone working on X-Men to check this out and find the joy in this visor. It's big, it's chunky, it's weird. Actually, I am noticing the sort of V part. It's maybe a little bit less rounded than I imagined or would remember it. I feel like it has been drawn to be more rounded, but I'm actually wondering when handful of characters got the Phoenix powers in like the late 2010s or early 2020s. I forget when. Is it like 2018? Something like that. And Cyclops had sort of like a helmet visor thing going on. I'm wondering, maybe that was a little bit of influence here. You see Ahab sneaking up. He's got these minions, his sentinel dudes or whatever. They're shooting down Cyclops and Invisible Woman, and that's going to get us to a big part of this issue that really blew my mind. So check this out. Look at this. He's got Invisible Woman and Cyclops strapped down in some freaky future technology, and this is gonna go wild. Look at this. Turns them into hounds of the future. It's freaky. She's sort of got like a Malice thing going on, but it's not the classic Malice look. It's gone a little bit different. Actually, she's she's got like the hound lines on the face and a little bit of like a flick in the hair. It reminded me of Molecule Man. And it's kind of cheesy where like the 4 is now, like no smoking, no 4. I like the Cyclops, so he's all armored up. He's still got his chunky visor. They didn't mess with the visor. Even when he goes bad, he's still got that chunky visor, but he's got like chains and spikes. It's very cheesy, but I do like it. We got like all this Kirby dot sort of pink energy flying around. Ahab's looking gnarly. I dig that. See them scuttling off to cause trouble. Do you like the way I've covered part of the screen too? Isn't that just ingenious? I'm reusing the graphic I made for the X-Men trading card stream, which you can find in the archive now, just because I really like it, and whatever. Who cares? Maybe next time. This is a learning process. I've made the comic very small on your screen. That might be an issue. You can always tell me that. I don't know. Will I improve? I think we've been doing this long enough to know I'm not going to improve significantly. Maybe we'll mess with the zoom here or there. Do you think I can do it and get away with it? I mean, I probably shouldn't. I don't know. I'll work it out another time. This is cool. You see Ahab sneaking up with his new hounds. Cyclops is blasting Franklin Richards. It's all over. It's very exciting. Then you get this. What a splash page. Look at this. You got like everybody's here. Human Torch, Mr. Fantastic, Warlock, Forge, Cannonball. I can't see them all because I got a freaking mic thing in my way. Beast, Jean Grey, She-Thing, Storm, Banshee, Cable. You can see Gambit, the new guy. Gambit gets a little bit of a just a little head peeking over Mr. Fantastic. First appearance, everybody. Man, the ads will always imprint themselves on you, and I always think of this with the Wolverine and the Punisher. Is that an Eric Lawson Punisher? I think it is. I had I got that Spider-Man. There was an issue of Amazing Spider-Man right around then that had Punisher by Eric Larson. I loved Eric Larson's Punisher back then. Well, I loved his Punisher, but I loved the Spider-Man. Yeah. I think a lot of people say that, though, that they love his Punisher, and he's not interested in Punisher at all, doesn't want to do it. Fair enough. He's very good at it, though. He's very good. More action. Look at this. Here's your bubblegum pink. I mean, I don't know how well it's rating. Do we have a bit of glare? The lighting situation here was really tough to get to, but I love the way Jean Grey's, like, it is very, like, it's bubblegum pink in the coloring process, but even, like, the blobs of, like, telekinesis, there's a real, like, bubblegum effect. Like, it's almost like you can imagine the bubble has just burst, and that's what the power looks like. Got, like, Invisible Woman trying to use her sort of invisible force fields, battling the telekinesis. I like that. This is cool. It's a good issue. You get a big rumble. Everybody's involved. Really exciting stuff. A little bit flat. Working some good perspective with the tiny characters. But as action goes, not quite exciting. I mean, look at this. This is what you want. You want Jean Grey and the Hound, Invisible Woman grappling. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's really good. Sunspot looking cool. Sunspot was like a big deal on the X-Men 97 series. He was like a new recruit. You can see him here as one of the New Mutants. His mentor, Cable, lurking in the background. But I always loved like the essentially like the living silhouette. You get a little bit of line work to show you like facial features and things like that, and then just Kirby dots going wild. Exciting, always an exciting image. Ahab and Cable grappling. That's pretty exciting. That's really cool. Dudes from the future mixing it up. And then you get some of the this always blew my mind as a kid, like some sort of like trap on the floor gets activated, everybody goes down. As a little kid, you're reading that, your mind's blown. You got like this collection of X-Men, X-Factor, New Mutants, Fantastic Four, my favorites. They get put down just like that. But then Franklin Richards of the future gets the big sparkle effect. Reminds me of, there was like a Captain Marvel story I had that they did something similar for like the trail when he flies. I always liked that a lot. I always thought, if you were doing something with a character, it'd be really interesting to bring that kind of effect to it with sort of like just little hand-drawn sparkles and a lot of yellow, sort of a golden yellow. Just, I don't know. I mean, this is the days before, computer-generated effects and colors and stuff like that. So it's just like, this kind of thing was, this was exciting. This was a technique that nobody was really using that much, and it just looked really cool. I even loved these kind of like square spark effects. You just draw in like lots of little like squares, but it gives you that like welding spark kind of vibe. It really sells it. Some really cool stuff. I mean, I think part of the problem with Arthur Adams is that like maybe he's a little bit slow. He needs a lot of lead time. But what he puts down on the page is like brilliant. He's doing great work. I don't know if that was a shortcut. Doesn't look. I don't think that's saving a lot of time. All those little lines for like the sparks, but looks really exciting at the time. Really cool. Lots of Kirby dots going on here. That looks really cool. It's great to see like Franklin Richards and Jean Grey. You get your bubblegum pink telekinesis as they're trying to stop Ahab's harpoon, his big like spear thing. Yeah, his name is Ahab and he has a big harpoon. What do you want? It's comic books, man. I love it. You gotta get your concepts down and make them intuitive, and maybe there's something there, and I just think that works. That's fine by me. This is cool. Mother and daughter, Rachel Summers, Jean Grey Summers together. The two phoenixes, really cool. Ahab looking gnarly. I like the way this sort of like his design has it has like sentinel elements to it, but he's really just like this grizzled old Ahab bearded man. That's kind of cool. He's disappears in a big blast. Cyclops and Invisible Woman are down. That's exciting. All this stuff is really exciting. Everybody's going to be okay. Put them on the table from Aliens or Alien. It's basically that's straight up just the medical bay beds from Alien, isn't it? Am I remembering that right? I don't know. Beast is a good guy. He's a science guy. That's all I need. I don't need any like supervillain Beast. Of course, as a kid, your mind is blown when Franklin Richards has the X-Men suit that's also got the Fantastic Four logo. It makes perfect sense. He's a mutant, and he's the son of Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman. It's awesome. It's the kind of thing that, like, as a kid, I would do that. See, it irritates me now because, like, for the last 10 years or more, Marvel's been doing that where, like, everyone's swapping powers all the time. Everybody's, you're replacing your icons with another guy who's inevitably going to get outmoded and faded out as the icon comes back. So irritating. It's so juvenile. And I think of it as a juvenile thing because as a kid, I would always be like coming up with like, oh, what if like a Wolverine and Jean Grey and like all these people, what if they went into space and became the Fantastic Four? I was always like, what if Deadpool became one of the Fantastic Four? Deadpool's a little bit later, I guess. I don't know. Oh, no, he'd be around. See, no, he's 91. In any event, yeah, I'd always be, it'd be that kind of thing. It's a juvenile concept, and it appeals on that level for some reason. And it is cool to see. I mean, there's a little bit more to the Franklin Richards thing because he's from the future. It makes sense that there's some sort of evolution there. This works for me, and it's also very isolated. This isn't the Franklin Richards that you'd necessarily be seeing. I forget, what is the premise of Fantastic Force, the spin-off series, sort of more mid-90s. You've got a Franklin who's maybe a fraction younger than this guy. Like, is this guy in his 20s? Maybe he's supposed to be teens, but he reads a little older. It's like a Hollywood teen. I don't know if it's the same Franklin that's in Fantastic Force. That might be the kid Franklin, and something weird's going on with the kid version where he's like aged up. I don't remember. I didn't really get into Fantastic Force as much. I got a few issues. I don't expect that we'll be talking about them anytime soon. Maybe we will. We should probably be making this more brisk. As always, I'm going to go long. I'm going to meander. I'm going to talk slowly. Whatever. I'm just enjoying looking back at a comic book that was very, very formative and important. Oh, this is cool. He's in the futuristic tank. They're running the tests. Phoenix is doing the thing. There's energy. There's stuff going on. Franklin's okay. He's waking up. Everything's good. She's, Rachel Summers is in her punk rock sort of 80s, punk hound gear with the red. I love that. That's cool. I like, there's something I guess about the X-Men chicks when they're like that, because I like, I love Lady Deathstrike. I kind of like 80s Rogue, where she's a little bit more punk. That's kind of cool. I say punk, but like poppy punk. You can pick at the semantics if that's all you like. That's fine by me. But yeah, I like this kind of stuff. They're cool. Jean Grey's, feeling a little bit glum. You got another nice little Cyclops towards the end there. That's cool. Everybody's good. Everybody's settling down, and all that stuff's good. And then you got like there's a backup story. Or, here's Jubilee. Jubilee, like, looking very Robin. And this reminds me of, I guess, is Jubilee's just flat out inspired by Carrie Kelly from Dark Knight Returns. I presume the Robin of the future, Dark Knight Returns. I presume that seems to be the case. All those image guys seem to be very, very much influenced by Frank Miller and his major works. But this reminds me a lot of was it Detective Comics? There was like this weird story where it was like, is there like a radio shock jock guy is taking calls, and then there's something about, is it a comic? It's like a Batman comic inside the Batman comic, and it's all crazy and then weird. I don't even know how to explain it. The Bat Hound is crazy, and like Batman's all got like pointy bits coming off. I don't know. If you know, you're gonna know what I'm getting at, because I think it's sort of become a little bit notorious. I gather, like, I had maybe one issue, and I remember seeing it on the stands. There's something about like this, the flamboyance and looseness of the character with like the blobby effects going around. There's something about that sort of like dream blobs in the treatment that's going on in that issue as well. But I think that's the thing where like people would half remember it, and it became sort of like this weird, confused, sort of notorious comic. I don't know, but yeah, this never connected with me as much as a kid. Maybe because I didn't really like. I never liked kid heroes as a kid. I always thought they were just sort of like condescending bullshit. Basically, I'm a kid. I'm surrounded by kids. I know we're all idiots. We're not capable of doing much. Don't even pretend. I don't want kid heroes. I want the real heroes. Here's Wolverine in his patch kind of get up, and as a kid, I want the costume. I don't want this like hairy dwarf guy with an eye patch, which I didn't understand. As a kid, I was always unclear, like, why is he wearing an eye patch? Is this Wolverine? I didn't really know who Wolverine was enough, maybe, to know all that, and I didn't know, like, you know, patch. I had to figure that out. I had to find that out later. You know, get issues of Marvel Comics Presents and stuff like that. You start to piece it all together, but this is sort of it's a lot of standing around chatting. Look at this massive word counts. This is maybe the cliche Chris Claremont. Huge word counts. As a little kid, it's a bit much, but you get a little glimpse of the original X-Men fighting Magneto. That's cool. Little flashbacks. There's a Sentinel. This business going on here, it's sort of like as a kid, you're working on like, can you identify everyone? Here's like the giant size X-Men expansion team, the international team. And it's sort of like, oh yeah, I know that guy's Colossus. There's Nightcrawler. He's one of my favorites. You know, that kind of thing. Oh, there's Storm. Why does she look like a kid now? I don't know. There's Cyclops. There's Sunfire. Is that Warpath? I guess there was no Warpath yet. It's gonna come, but then yeah, you're looking at like this. Who's that guy? Is that Magneto or is that Graviton? I don't know. As a kid, I was trying to, you know, I was like, is Graviton the same guy as Magneto? No, I don't think he is, because like in that Spider-Man. Before I think it's the issue before Magneto, there's Graviton or something like that. One way or the other. Actually, yeah. So I'm talking about this issue. So this is Magneto, and this is when Spider-Man has the Captain Universe powers. So he's all cosmic powered up. He can handle Magneto at this point, and he took out Graviton. I'm trying to remember. I think Tri-Sentinel is after this. So Spider-Man was mixing it up with Magneto and the Tri-Sentinel, which is like a Sentinel. Sebastian Shaw's involved in making them. Loki fuses 3 Sentinels together to make the Tri-Sentinel, so it's like a big X-Men thing. I don't know why, you know, it was Spider-Man dealing with a lot of X-Men. So those were some of like early X-Men exposures too. But all of this is good. You relish these things. There's the 80s Rogue in the green. You relish these kinds of things like as a young reader, because you just want to get as much context as you can. Teach me, tell me everything. I want to know it all. That's the attitude I had, and I think the attitude that any new reader should have. Just go in it knowing much as life. When you meet somebody, you don't know their entire life's history. You don't necessarily have the same friends. You don't know everything about them. You don't need to. You don't meet somebody new. You don't meet a coworker or something and say, well, I can't do this because I don't know the entire history of their life. Doesn't matter. You'll learn along the way. You'll converse. You'll network. Same thing with comics. You're just like, well, who's this guy? I want to know more about this guy. Where can I get more of this? It's so much easier to find out now. I can understand that sometimes like people concerned about the new reader thing, you're spoiled for choice and you're maybe overwhelmed by choice as well, because the information is so available to you that there is maybe a sense of being overwhelmed and like, where do I start? But it hasn't really changed. I would go into the comic book store as a kid. There's hundreds of thousands of comic books in this room. Where do I start? Well, I'm just going to look around. I'm going to absorb as much as I can, and I'm going to pick one. Pick one that I like the look of, and maybe I've seen a character in something like this. You know, maybe I've seen these earlier incarnations of the X-Men, and I see something that has them, and I might pick that up and think like, okay, this looks interesting. I'm going to find out a bit more, and you're just going to enjoy the chase, enjoy finding out, enjoy learning. That's really what it's all about. You get a little bit of action here. That's good, because to this point it's been a little bit dull. Wolverine's at least wearing part of his costume, so now I know for sure it's Wolverine. And then it settles down. Actually, this is a flashback? I think that's a flashback. Because they did have a little situation. As I recall, does Wolverine do as he did to his mother, to our mother, and go for the claws? I don't know. I'm forgetting my X history here. But yeah, a little bit of a sedate sort of, I guess it's, as is good for an annual, it's sort of giving you some information and perspective. I remember, I have a distinct memory because Psylocke is in here. Where she, yeah, you see like Psylocke, she shows up. Distinctly remember sitting on this ugly ass gold couch we had at the house we were living at this time, showing my uncle and saying, "She's sexy." That was my that was my contribution and understanding of this character. She's got straps on her legs. That means she's sexy. Corrupting the youth. Maybe Frederick Wortham was onto something. But yeah, that's that. Check out this awesome Kevin Nolan pinup. See, this stays in my mind. Always, it always threw me slightly because Colossus is he's just down to the trunks, and they're white. They're not red, so they look like tidy whities, which upset me a little bit as a kid because I was like, no, Colossus, he wears the red getup. You gotta give him the costume. Where's the costume? He doesn't even have the belt. You know, the Mark Silvestri one, he wore like just the trunks, but he had the big X belt. You gotta give me something. I want costumes. But obviously, Colossus with the metal skin, that's cool. Havoc was always tremendously intriguing to me. The weird things on his head. Great looking Wolverine. Is this, I think as a kid, I was never sure, is this guy Kevin Nolan or is this Longshot? I presume it's Longshot. Seems era appropriate. Now here's a little bit of like a little kid thing. So to me, it looks like Colossus is just standing around in his underwear. So naturally, I end up with like, I love cotton, a sticker off of underwear. I don't remember, like, did my mother buy underwear and there was a sticker for some reason? Or were we shopping and did the store clerk give me a sticker because I was a little kid? I don't remember how it went, but for some reason I stuck it on the back of the page of Colossus wearing his underwear. Don't try to understand it. I mean, I made mistakes at this age, clearly, because you can see the value of this issue is sorely challenged because I colored in Spider-Man's eye with a biro. Stupid little kid, what do you want? Another cool pinup. You know, it's not the actual Hound outfits that are in the story, but it's a pretty cool image. Like, it's the good guys have gone bad, and as a little kid, that's a little unsettling. They're looking pretty sinister here. Cyclops looking like some kind of scumbag with just a sick grin on his face. Invisible Woman looks like she wants to smash your face in. The costumes are ripped. Shocking stuff. Michael Golden, good job. But I do prefer the looks in the main story with like the green armor on Cyclops and all that, and the chains and all that. That is X-Men Annual number 14. I don't know how I feel about that. You know, how did we do? No great insights, you know, nothing special, but this is the first X-Men comic I ever got. I had a little stack of comics already at this age. I was very young. I was still learning to read, really, around that time. You know, I would have started school around this time, but I was learning to read with comics before I started school. And I think, to me, that's another great sort of, in my mind, it's a virtue of comics. Maybe later in life, you know, it's affected my vernacular in ways that could be detrimental sometimes. You know, if you're raised on Stan Lee, that can be a little bit of a problem when you write and speak that way, but I don't know, you know, it exposed me to a lot of language and ideas and things at a young age, and it really motivated me to learn to read. I could read, you know, before I started school, and it was because I wanted to know, like, what's Spider-Man doing? I want to know what's going on here. I could see the pictures, that's exciting, but, you know, what are they doing? What's happening to why is Cyclops and Invisible Woman suddenly wearing weird costumes? You know, I needed to know what the words said, so as a kid, I was very motivated to learn how to read, and comic books really help do that. You know, I was probably a little bit ahead of some other kids at school because I had this exposure to like reading from a very young age, and I kind of think that's a virtue of comics. You know, I think sometimes like the books they give you at school and stuff, they can be a little bit bland, a little bit, you know, sedate. And if you get something like a really good comic that's going to jazz you up and make you want to read, that's got to be a good thing. when I was in school, it was always frowned upon. You shouldn't be reading comics. It's interesting because, like, in my experience, I mean, I didn't really have, for a long time, I didn't really have friends that were into comics, but I was never, like, bullied or anything about it, you know, but I also didn't, like, you know, I wasn't walking around advertising it. Although, to some extent, I probably was. Like, in the third grade, I would, like, take a Spider-Man t-shirt to school. I'd wear my school uniform to school, and I'd have my t-shirt in my backpack. So I was literally advertising that I liked superheroes. I don't know, but yeah, it was never a big issue. I mean, I was also, like, I was into sports and stuff. I did, you know, so I don't know. And also, like, I don't know, like, cause like, really, what I'm thinking of is, like, Americans often talking about how, like, you know, you couldn't talk about that you were into comics, you know, or if you did, you were, like, you know, you were ostracized or whatever, bullied or beat up or something. And I guess, you know, maybe the culture just wasn't like that here. I don't know. I mean, I think I partly I get to comics because my parents, you know, were okay with comics. They weren't like they weren't like full on nerds about it the way I was, but you know, my father grew up reading like comics. My mother, you know, same kind of thing as like them as kids. So there was like a, you know, at least in terms of family, like I'm thinking of, like, you know, down here there was a comics culture, and it was common, it was available. I think it was just sort of accepted. I think a lot of people were aware of it, and it wasn't, I mean, you still had, like, you know, the sort of nerd dynamic, but it wasn't like comics were emblematic of that. Comics were never like Star Trek, at least not where I lived and the schools I went to. It was never like a big thing. You know, I'm trying to think, like, I remember one time, like in the 8th grade or 9th grade or something, some girls were saying like comics sucked. They just wanted my attention though. I just thought it was silly and funny. I don't know. Comics are just like, you know, they've always been there. And I think you can, you know, it was a solitary experience, I guess, in a lot of ways. You know, I guess that's what I'm thinking of. But it was never really a problem. I forget why I was even starting to say that. This is the first X-Men comic I had. Hopefully we'll find something insightful to say about comics again. I just really wanted to, I see the Hellhole as sort of like a hangout, and maybe like just a place to share things that I like and I'm interested in, just to hang out. If you're like-minded, you can jump in, you can say something. If you're not, whatever. You know, that's fine. What, are you going to try to put me in a locker? Try it, bub. I don't know. What am I even doing? Yeah, I don't know. I have no real plans for what I was coming here to do. Obviously hugely influenced by the cartoonist kayfabe guys. Those guys have some real insights, you know, and there's still cartoonist kayfabe videos going up. Obviously the situation went down, what is it, weeks? Is it months? I don't know. The Ed Piskor situation where he passed away, you know, really rattled, I think, a lot of fans. So I've been checking them out for a while now. Yeah, I feel like I should really pay homage to them, because, like, to me, the notion of like flipping through a comic on a YouTube thing is a little bit, in my mind, it was always, you know, it was treading too closely to piracy and things like that, and I try not to participate in that. But essentially, like, you know, I would encourage you to seek this comic out if you can, and seek new comics out, certainly. But yeah, those cartoonist kayfabe guys are just so great. Don't know, you know, there's some similar like overlap in interests, so that was part of it. They did great interviews. That's how I really found them, was some of the kayfabe interviews they did. I don't know how many years ago now. It feels like they were there for so long, but I guess it's really only a few years. It's COVID era stuff, so it's like 2019, 2020, so it's barely 5 years old. But they did some great interviews. And I think Mark Miller was onto them pretty early, and he was spruiking them. One of the ones that really blew me away was Peter Chung, because I was such a Eon Flux fan of 2040, even Rugrats fan, you know, growing up. So you don't get to see too many Peter Chung interviews, so that was really exciting. But their comic stuff was really good. They've done so many, and obviously they had and have good insights and just perspectives into the comic making process. I I guess it's a heartfelt dream of mine to make comics to my own satisfaction, and that's partly why I haven't really done a lot in comics. I've made a few here and there, but it's just been really difficult to really produce something that is to my satisfaction. And part of that is even in the creative process. And it's interesting to hear the cartoonist kayfabe guys' perspectives, Piscor and Jim Rugg, more of the penciler's perspective, the artist's perspective, and there is unfortunately in comic books a bit of a divide in that regard. And I skew more towards the writer's side. I don't feel comfortable drawing to a professional standard. I can get by. I can do designs and things like that, but I'm not a great hand. So it's interesting to hear that other perspective. You kind of gotta expose yourself to it. I don't always agree with it. I sometimes push back against it. To me, it's a visual medium, and the writer needs to write knowingly for a visual medium and devise visual storytelling and be involved in that part of the process. It's not always how it pans out. And you know, it's interesting to hear the cartoonist kayfabe guys. They have a perspective on both sides of that. They do address, you know, writing quirks and stuff, and they have. So I don't always agree with everything, and I've seen that they've had critics over the years. I think some people are maybe I don't know. Some of the criticism seemed to just be for show. I don't know. I didn't really like that. I didn't really like the pylon on Ed Piscor when some of the questions about like what he'd been up to came out. Looking at the details, you know, I wasn't entirely comfortable with it, but I also didn't think it was necessarily worthy of the venom that some people were spewing and things like that. It's difficult. I don't really feel qualified necessarily to litigate, you know, like a he said, she said situation. I just feel bad about the whole situation, and a lot of people have talked about that, and you know, it just sucks the way it went down, and it hit me pretty hard at the time because they do like they're doing daily videos, and they become like the pals, you know, the comic book pals that I didn't necessarily have for most of my life. A couple of years, you know, I had a friend, Ben, we would get together and make comics, or at least attempt to. We would share comic stuff. There was a good Brendan was a bit of a comic book fan friend, but generally I didn't connect with friends over comics. So those cartoonist kayfabe guys are almost like the friends that I probably would have enjoyed having, you know, more in my life. And it was always cool getting their perspective and some of the things that that they're still pulling out, because there is this tremendous backlog through the Patreon that they do. So it's been really weird, sort of, you know, the mind plays tricks on you, and you know, because there's the kayfabe element, and it's like, you know, is it true? Is he really gone? Is it all just a work? Is it a work, brother? Try to sort of convince yourself. These Patreon videos have sort of helped, you know, take the sting out of things. I don't know. That's probably not a good way to talk about it, though. I mean, it's a serious thing and it sucks. But it's nice to sort of have that sense of like those guys, you're easing into it. Knowing that he's gone really sucks, and not being able to engage in any way kind of, you know, is sad. You know, I've sort of, I feel like so much of our culture is like, we're always hearing about the movie star that's dead, the musician that's dead, the favorites that are gone. And I finally reached an age where it starts to be some of the ones that I feel strongly about. You know, for a long time it was sort of like, well, you know, that's sad, but I'm not across that stuff. But now we're at a point where, you know, you get the gut punch pretty regularly where a favorite's gone and you're not going to see them anymore. You're not going to, you know, appreciate what they do anymore. And then we have so much of that I'm kind of like, I'm mindful in some ways of like, I want to express, you know, I'm not always great at expressing sometimes some of these things where like, I want to say, you know, hey, particularly something where it's like, you know, does George Clooney care if I love, you know, something that he's done or something like that? Probably not, you know, somebody like that. But, you know, I feel good that I was able to express to the cartoonist kayfabe guys, you know, at least a couple of times, you know, that I appreciate what they do and I enjoy it. And that's the kind of thing I'm feeling. I'm feeling a need and a desire. And I guess that's part of what I'm doing on the Hellhole here, is a desire to engage with things that I like, that I enjoy, remember the joy of those, share the joy of those, and express, the enjoyment and the gratitude. Do I think, is Arthur Adams checking this out because I talked about X-Men Annual 14? Probably not. No. But I don't know. I'm putting it out, just putting it out in the universe, expressing an appreciation and an enjoyment for things. And if I can tell the people, if I can express it to the people responsible, and affect them positively in any way, that would be great. Because, time is limited sometimes, and you got to tell your loved ones, that you love them and all that stuff. I don't want to get grim. I don't want to get morose about it, but I want to pay respect and homage to the Cartoonist Kayfabe guys, because they're the ones with the camera, the microscope on top of the comic, flicking through it. They got much better things to say than I do. I just sit down, I talk, I ramble. Did we have fun? I don't know. I had fun looking at this comic. This is a good comic. I haven't read it in a long time. You can see it's pretty beat up. It's not going to get not going to get it. Is it CGC who does the comic grading? It's not going to get graded anytime soon. There's a nice texture to it, actually, the well-read comic. There's something about the covers a little bit smoothed out and rough. There's something I like about that. And I do have a romantic feeling about the printing of 1990. I don't know what it is. See, this is where you need the Cartoonist Kayfabe guys, because they're going to know some of these details. But there's something about the printing process, particularly in 1990, and maybe even more so in DC Comics, something like issues of Superman and Batman that I had. Very inky. Sometimes it's a little muddy. It smudges a bit. I don't know if that's something to do with the paper stocks that were used, and maybe the printing techniques. I don't know what it is, but there's something about 1990. This one, this one looks pretty good, this issue. But I'm thinking of Superman issues. Maybe that's something we'll talk about. I don't know. I've got a very romantic sort of feeling about 1990. As I get older and I get more distant from years, I used to have a strong sense of each year. I would remember all the details. The sad thing is, I don't know what my first comic is. For whatever reason, I'm pretty sure this was my first X-Men comic. Probably because, like I was saying, I'd been reading comics really only for a couple of years at this point, a year or two. But in my mind as a kid, it was like, oh my God, I only got into X-Men in 1990. It's really embarrassing. And I guess part of it is too, I probably didn't follow this up. It's a while before I get into X-Men, probably around 91, more so 92, 93, I guess. The cartoon helps, but it's around the same time. Although, of course, like I said, back issues. You got to read backwards and forwards. I love a cheap back issue. I just ordered a few X-Men back issues, filling in some gaps, getting some good gold. I'm surrounded by stacks of comics. I can't show you because if I move anything, it all crumbles to the ground. But yeah, I don't remember my earliest comics, but these are early entries. I think the camera's frozen. How about that? So we got through it just in time. How about that? It's frozen. I'm gonna stop talking. If you want to be here, follow, do all that stuff. God knows I need the help. I need more live views, which this is not going to help because it's some ungodly hour. And if you're watching in the YouTube archive, it's an hour of me just waffling and then getting morose for a while and talking about death and all this stuff and all these miserable things. I don't know. X-Men. Hey, is it inappropriate for X-Men? Even in X-Men 97 right now, you got Sentinels, going scorched earth on Genosha. It's kind of, X-Men's not shying away from that stuff. That's a series that knows a little bit about death and the grim side of things. And maybe these comics are sort of there to prepare us for these kinds of experiences. In any event, oh my God, my throat is shredding. I'm having some throat issues, so I don't know quite what I'm doing at the moment right now. But if you head to the archive, we got some X-Men stuff. There's X-Men 94 Fleer Ultra, another sort of just reminiscence looking at stuff, show and tell kind of stuff. Check that out. In my mind, it's the best X-Men trading card series. Your perspective might be slightly different. I know some skew. I think Ed Piskor was a Series 2 guy. I like the 94 Ultra. I like Series 2 as well, though. There's a lot of good stuff. Or was he might have been talking about Marvel Universe Series 2, actually, come to think of it. We got Marvel Snap challenges. We got the X-Men 97 challenge. We got the Hellfire Gala challenge that was rescued from the New Year archive, and I did a little new intro like I intended. and then it's just all downhill from there. We got a NBA Upper Deck 9091 box break. We got the Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer timeline, which I will intend to finish soon, but my throat, I need to rest, which I haven't done a great job of here. Whatever, I'm still going. I will see you guys real soon. We'll do something. We'll have fun. I don't know. I hope you're all doing well. I appreciate you guys if you're watching. And adios, amigos. Hey, say something nice to your mother and your father. So long!